Welcome to the Educator Experience podcast. My name is Salli Carter, and I just have to start by saying that I possibly have the coolest gig in the world. I get to sit down with educators, post secondary professors, facilitators, trainers from across the world. They're opening up, y'all. People are getting vulnerable. They're sharing a piece of their growth, their development, their personal journeys and stories. And it's just an incredible privilege. And today is no different. I sit down with Chef Franck Desplechin. His career has spanned in Michelin-rated kitchens and world-class hotels. It kind of reads like a little bit of a masterclass on learning from failure, flexibility, and grit. He's got a new book called Relentless Growth, Cultivating a Chef's Mindset for Professional Fulfillment. Comes out on October 14th, and we're trying to align this podcast. So if the universe does its thing, it'll come out right in time. So don't forget to get it. Um, if it's anything like this conversation, I would imagine it's refreshingly candid. Okay. He goes over the struggles of the hospitality industry and doesn't really gloss over it. He puts a spotlight on resilience and adaptability, two themes that directly relate to us post secondary educators, right? In this particular conversation, we touch on the importance of a healthy work culture and how we're all striving to really create that and the benefits of that when you do create that around you. Understanding different learning styles and leaning into them in order to foster the best possible team environment, and really what relentless growth means to us as human beings in the ultimate quest for enlightenment. But you know what else we get into? And I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people too, is what it's like to write a book, the whole process, the ugly, overwhelming, vulnerable, authentic process, uncomfortable, I think maybe is the key word here. What it's like, and hear firsthand what it's like for him to release his first book that we fully support. The title Relentless Growth really it it just embodies the entire conversation for today, Chef Franck's spirit and life commitment. And it is such an incredible privilege to share this conversation with y'all today. So, without further ado, let's get to it with Chef Franck.
Being an educator is one heck of a lonely journey, but every step holds a story, an experience that shapes how we teach, learn, and grow. Welcome to the Educator Experience. I'm your host, Salli Carter, and together we'll explore the moments that define us as educators. Through authentic conversations and shared experiences, we're building a community that connects, reflects, and inspires, all while breaking down barriers in education, one story at a time. You are not alone. Let's grow together.
Well, Chef Franck, thank you so much for joining us today. I would love to dive into a little bit about getting to know you and what brought you to where you are now.
So what brought me? You can tell from my accent, I am not from here. I was born and raised in France. I've been in US for a little bit about 13 years now. And the world of hospitality is kind of what was on my journey. I was a chef, then I became pastry chef, then eventually I became director of food and beverage. So I'm in the world of foodies, and everyone loves food. So I'm in the right world, in my opinion. Yeah, so I've worked my way up in the kitchen, Michelin star rated restaurant back in France for about probably the first 12 years of my 25 plus year career. And after that, I started to have the virus of traveling. I started to travel across the world. I lived in Australia. I lived in the Caribbean. I moved into French Polynesia in Bora Bora for about 2.5 years. Then I got my way into United States through probably one of the most beautiful states, which is Hawaii. And so I ended up working in Hawaii for 4 years, then moved into the Bay Area in San Francisco. Then after I met my now wife in San Francisco in hospitality, then we moved together in Sedona, Arizona, and then we did our way all the way up, all the way back to East, which we based home in Connecticut. And I would say that the curiosity early on, I've skipped high school, so I don't have a whole lot of normal education. I have
Life is normal anyways
yes,
nowadays,
I
right? Yeah.
guess maybe we can refer to it as the school of hard knocks.
Yes.
So that's the route that I've taken. My parents were extremely supportive about that route, and so I did that. I did my technically everything I've done was through the kitchen, learning on the go. I was 15 years old when I started, and kind of educated myself along the way. I studied along the way, and I took classes along the way, but never really the conventional way that you would think from an education. So I would say I have a very hands-on approach to education, and experience is probably the best lesson that I have to offer.
Love that.
I do understand concept, I do understand theory because I have educated myself, but I would say the experience and the pressure of the heat of the kitchen is kind of what made me able to navigate probably one of the world's most demanding industry. So yeah.
That's so cool. So, in your experiences then, as a top chef, you're obviously training people, you're working with other adults. How has that worked for you? What has been something that has really stood out in terms of working and teaching other adults your craft?
Yeah, I mean, you work with constantly new teams, and this is not a new problem that the industry is facing with staff shortage. It's very hard to find people in the world of hospitality. So I've trained new team, old team. I've trained every generation. I had cooks that were the oldest cooks I ever worked with. I think she was 72, 73 years old. And the youngest was just coming out fresh out of school. So you really have when you become an exec chef of a property, like for example in Hawaii, I had 65 culinarians in my team, and they were anywhere from 16, 17 years old all the way until 70 plus. And not only the age is one thing, but the culture. I had people from Asia. I've got Filipinos. I got Mexicans. I've got Europeans. I've got American. So we had a melting pot of experience and culture within the team, and you have to find a way to educate. Not everyone respond the same way, and I think what has made my success is I was able to find a language that was universal, which is the language of efforts, the language of understanding, the language I would say of listening, which is not something that I've mastered from the get-go. It's not something we all have. I think we all have an opportunity to be a better listener, and so the language of listening, paying attention to what their needs are, and what I think gave me the key to my own success is I flipped the pyramid. For example, and I'm gonna explain it. You would think that on the bottom of the pole you have your staff, then after you go up you have your middle management, then after you go up you have your directors, and then you go into your C suite, and then you go into your CEO. And so the way I approach it is I flip the pyramid. I do think that the CEO needs to work for his C suite, the C suite needs to work for his director, and the director needs to work for his staff. So once you understand that concept that you're here to work for them, removing the obstacles out of their way, providing them the tools to do their job, then I
Mhm.
like to think that you find a formula that can sustain a workplace culture that is pretty healthy.
Love that. It makes me think of the Educator Experience team here too. I'm like, "I work for y'all. What do you need so that you can succeed with everything that you do?" And it's just such a
Totally.
different perspective than when I was in corporate management in the big corporate world, right? But with a small team, I wanna be known as the the teammate who gets you the information that you need the fastest because we can keep going, we can keep proceeding, and yeah, it's a really interesting perspective.
There was Steve Jobs that said, "You've got to be better at hiring. You hire the right people when
Yes.
you get out of there, and you get out of their way." Like if you hire the right people with the right skill, therefore, why do you feel the need to micromanage and doing a hand holding?
Yeah.
You shouldn't need it, or you
Yep.
hire the wrong person, or you have an insecurity problem. So regardless, there is an issue for you to work on.
Right. I love it. So I'm just trying to relate it back to, like, being in the classroom. So as educators, if we're making that correlation, we're there to support our students. What do they need to succeed? How can we create the best possible classroom so that they can grow? And that's gonna be dependent on individuals. It's not gonna be the same across the board, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
I just did recently a classroom leadership training for I'm on a project in Lexington, Kentucky right now, and the whole leadership team kind of was looking for some leadership training about emotional intelligence or about teamwork or about pretty much anything related to leadership. And what I found that was from a classroom perspective, what I found that was rather successful is finding how people likes to learn. The goal of a classroom is to keep them engaged from 1 to 2. And if you have a 7 hour training, you tend to lose people right after lunch. They're ready for taking a nap. So you've got to find maybe the activity start to take place after lunch, or maybe. And so I found that some people are better at learning visually. Some people are better at learning by writing. Some people are better by learning to in order to team building with someone else that's seeing them like a back and forth kind of situation. And so once you have a classroom, I think you have to be able to show a little bit of everything in order to keep everyone engaged. Because if you were to ask, I've done the experience, if you were to ask 10 people what is the way that you're learning the best, most of them will say what they think they know, but
Yeah.
they never actually ask themselves the question. And so once you're starting teaching them activity, or you're starting to teach them from a screen or PowerPoint presentation or question assessment, you realize that the way that they thought they were learning was not actually the one they retained. So you just have to find a way to keep them engaged, add a little bit of sense of humor. You don't want to be just the boring person that just
No, no one was boring.
you don't want to be
Leader.
the boring person that just goes over and read the slides. There's no point.
Yeah.
Just distribute the slide at this point. And the slide is just something for guiding the team to know what we're talking about. But you've got to do a better job to know what your presentation is.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because I literally just had this happen. I have a 3-hour class in a university, and it's this big lecture hall, and it doesn't have any windows. And I walk into the classroom, and I just feel my soul leaving my body. And I'm like, wow. So now I have to amp up my energy because I know other people are going to be feeling the same way. So I
Of
have to
course.
overcompensate for them, keep them engaged. And it's just that much more difficult when the environment sucks. So I just got a room switch. I didn't even know this, that you could ask for a room switch partway through a semester. And it's a
Hmm.
much bigger room, but it has windows. And I'm really excited to try and change the energy because I I realized, yeah, the room and the environment super, super important. So it's kind of
Oh, of
funny.
course.
Yeah.
Sometimes you find that you okay. I guess I'm gonna have to buy candies and chocolates in order to keep everyone
Yeah.
on sugar.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then the no-brainer with you icebreaker. You got to find icebreaker that just break the mood in order to show who you are and participate to the icebreaker. So
Yeah.
I found them still they're oldies, but they work every single time.
Yeah, I love it. So, going back to what you were saying about that you work with different learning styles and you try to appreciate them in your practice, you are in a high pressure, high stakes, fast environment in a
Hmm.
kitchen. How are you working with different people? I always pictured chefs as it's their way or the highway. So, it sounds like you have a little bit of a different approach.
There's definitely still chefs to this day that are like this. They're the one that probably are still looking for jobs today, or they're the one that are looking for
They're not
staff
on
to come.
podcasts.
Yes, so I think this is such an outdated way
Got
of
it.
managing. We're managing a very different generation of student of hospitality. The millennials now are at my age, and then you have you Gen Zs and you Gen Alpha. So the generation now does not respond the same to what we used to respond to. And so I would say the approach is really you spend your normal 10-hour shift usually into a kitchen or into an environment hospitality. I usually would be the one that would be spending 12, 13 hours. The time that I'm going to invest into each individual, I'm obsessed with it. And I'm like obsessed to a point that I have to fall in love with the process that it will pay dividend much later. It's just the you kind of make your announcements. You arrive, you're the new boss, and everyone's looking is like, okay, what is the new boss all about? And then you're starting to everyone observe you, everyone watch you. Anytime you walk into a room, you're the chef. Therefore, everyone pay attention. So, like, regardless of what you do well and what you do not well, it will be retained, observed, and talked about. So it is up to you to realize that you actually on stage anytime that you are walking into a public space or into your kitchen. And when you do that and you have that level of awareness, you're already starting to teach because you're starting to pay attention. You're starting to do things intentionally. Therefore, there's a way of the people that don't want to speak up, the one that don't raise their hand to be scared of asking a stupid question, that they are the one that's going to pay attention to what you do. They're going to learn
Right.
from replication of what you do. And then you kind of go into some people that are just the chef, I have a question, chef, I have a question, the annoying one, the one I used to be.
I'm that
And
person too.
Yes, it's like I have a question, and they're the one that require a lot more hands-on and a lot more coaching
Mm,
and mentoring. And when that's the case, you either, if you have too many of them, then you're starting to create some classrooms. So you're saying, "Hey, Wednesday next week, I'm planning on showing how to do a beef stock from scratch." And it's like, "So you guys, you want to learn? This is where you're coming." And you can decide to go to the extent of if you have a budgetary constraint, you say, I'm going to do that on this day. If you want to participate and learn, it's free, complimentary. But after, you can always go to the extra mile and go to your HR director or to your GM and say, I would like to implement some classroom. Can we make sure the staff is being paid? That goes a long way with the staff. So you're really trying to find avenues and ways. And if there's one that doesn't work, then that's fine. You just know it doesn't work. And then
keep
you go
going.
to the next one and you
Yeah.
keep going. But you've got to find a way to find how do they retain the information, how do they want to be taught, and then you're going to have the usually the most senior, the one that's been in the kitchen for 25 years, they have nothing to learn, they know it all. They you know, new chef, and you're probably not the last chef they're going to see. And so they're the one that you have to probably go to the extent of having to sit down with them. And you're just having a little sit down and say, hey, how are you doing? My name is Franck. I want to be I want to get to know you a little bit more, and I can tell that you've been here for a long time, so I'm going to rely on you for a lot of the history of this place in order to understand what has been done, what has been done well, and that's going to help me navigating the future. So, and then the last one I would say is spend time to observe who are your influencers. You're always going to have your influencers, good or bad. You're going to have some that, if you're coming with a new idea, a new initiative, your influencer is going to make or break that initiative. And so you find out who are the one that's going to be drinking the Kool-Aid very early on.
Yes.
And then you
Yes.
just go and sit down. You say, hey, I'm bringing you into the confidence. I'm launching this new initiative. What do you think? And they say, oh, chef, I actually like this. And you say, okay, well, I'm going to need your help in order to get this achieved. So you already make them, there's a little bit of manipulation, but you make them feel like they're actually part of this. I say, I'm sharing this information with you. I'm asking for you to keep that for yourself until I share it with everybody. And suddenly they feel like, oh, wow, I'm actually been chosen to have
Special.
an information. And suddenly when you launch those new initiatives, those influencers that were always influencers, they're going to be the one carrying on the project for you, and you just watch from a distance. So all those little tricks that you do, not
Yeah.
only in the kitchen, I think you can adopt that in pretty much any field. It's just a matter of knowing what game you're playing at and knowing who are the players.
Love it. Is there a particular moment in your career that you feel has been most impactful or that really stands out as an interesting story?
Wow. I feel
So
like
many, I'm sure,
I
but
feel like I have 100 stories of that. I would say, I would say the when I was in Sedona, I moved to Sedona with, like I said, now my wife, and I became exec chef of a property in Sedona, and I spent there about 6 months, and then I got called to go on the other luxury property across town, which was I usually not the person that after 6 months will move out. I'm someone that is very committed. If I sign an agreement or a contract, then I'm going to stick around. But I guess I was being given a one in a lifetime opportunity that I just couldn't refuse. I was becoming a director of food and beverage for a luxury property across town. So there was some aspect of the current position I was in that was also not entirely to my liking. And so there's a little bit of a push out and there's a lot of attraction. And so in that moment, I just made the call. I moved into the other property and very quickly. So like I say, I was there for 5.5 months maybe. And very quickly, when I arrived to that new hotel, there was a pretty unhealthy culture happening. There was a huge attendance issue. There was very little accountability. Drugs was happening in the kitchen. So there was a little bit of an unhealthy culture. There was a lot of tardiness, lot of staff that did not necessarily care. They were there for the wrong reason. Let's put it that way. There was very little to no accountability. There was no ambition. There was no drive, no purpose. And then there was unfortunately also drugs happening, and so all of these things that was there, and just like, my goodness, I need to clean up before I'm starting doing something here. And so, you either take your time cleaning up, but then your entire operation is suffering, or you just clean up, but you in a corporation, so you have to take, you have to follow the rules and the protocols. You have to do the write-ups and the coaching, counseling, how's it please. And but what I found that was good is, a week later, after my first week, and I was starting to, like I say, cleaning house as I was instructed to, I had a lot of people from that property that I was for 5.5 months that was calling, and they said, "Hey, Franck, it's not the same here. Can we come work for you?" And I said, "Well, I don't have any position open, but once I do, for sure, you can go ahead and apply. You just keep an eye. I don't want to be poaching from my past property, so just keep an eye out. Position will be coming available probably over the next couple weeks." And so that's what happened. I ended up,
They just moved. They
and
followed you.
people were following. And once I made an assessment of the whole operation, now I was not just in charge of the kitchen, I was in charge of the front of the house and the kitchen. And so there was a staff of close in high season, we're probably 90 to 120. And I realized very quickly I could not do it on my own. That was being impossible. And so I brought my executive sous chef that used to work with me in San Francisco. We kept in touch, very good friends. And I just say, "Hey, John, I'm going to need you to come help me out." And I say, "Okay, I'm on my way." And then I brought the sous chef that I had met at that hotel. That now became my chef de cuisine. That I brought the pastry chef. That I brought my baker. And suddenly I started to technically build the best of whatever it was in town into just that one hotel. Funny enough, so we've kind of built a very, very healthy culture for 4 years. We went through the pandemic, so I had to go to the layoff
A
of
lot.
all my friends and people that I brought in. So that was an experience on its own. But then after I moved to Connecticut, which is now where I am, and same thing. I arrived there and realized, I said, "Man, I'm not gonna be able to do this on my own." So I called back my team, and they all came back to Connecticut. So all of those things are just they're the one that definitely made me realize that I had a way of teaching, a way of treating other people. They're the one that made me realize, like, when you're starting to come to a new job and you have people that wants to follow you across the
Yeah.
country, it just means you're doing something right. and
It's
and
so
sometimes
heartfelt. Yeah.
it's
That's
just
how
it's just
special is that? Yeah.
it's the best feeling in the world, and they're the one that are already they're ready for battle. Like, they're just like, "Okay,
Let's do
Franck,
that.
how," and excuse my French, but they say, "So how much of a shit show is it?" And it's
Right?
like, "Well,"
Look, we're
and
gonna
it's
have to
like,
turn
"Well,
this
man,
around.
this is the issues. This is," and I say, "Okay, no problem. I'll be there on Saturday." And so it's just
Awesome.
like, those are the things that has made my career a success. I've been
Mm,
able and so lucky to be surrounded with the right people, and they work so hard to make me look amazing. And I think they're the real amazing people in my career.
love this. Healthy culture. Healthy culture
Yeah.
can survive anything for sure. I know you have a little kiddo napping, but are you open to sharing a little bit about your book that's coming out
Yeah,
soon?
of course, absolutely. So my book is called Relentless Growth,
Mm,
Cultivating a
love
Chef
the name.
Mindset for Professional Fulfillment. So I actually have it here. Um,
Perfect.
so um, yes, so it's coming out on Tuesday the 14th. So in about 3 days from now. It
October
sounds very
14th.
close for everyone that is hearing now, but man, I've started in December 2023, so it's almost nearly 2 years in the making. I I had no idea what the hell I was getting into when I wrote the book. I thought that within a year I would be able to be published and out in the world. And I guess I could have. Now you have actually ways in order to do that. But I this process became so therapeutic for me to go back into part of my life that I felt like that was just an experience, but being able to put it on paper in order to make it relatable, in order to make it transpire the emotion and feelings that was going, made me having to go very deep into me and finding out is like, my goodness, I don't remember feeling that way about this experience. And so I wanted to write a book that I wanted to read. That was so important to me. And so the book is about technically what I would think are the blueprints in order for you to reach professional fulfillment. Obviously, I talk about hospitality. Can this book be translated into another industry? I like to think it is, but I also don't know other industry. I know hospitality like
You
the
know
back
that?
of my hand. Therefore, I wanted to write it for the student of hospitality. After, if it goes beyond hospitality, then that's just gravy. You follow 10 chapters, so there's kind of a guideline slash blueprint about how to move from one step to another. So you go to chapters like redefining failure, understanding patience, ambition, resilience, adaptability. All of those are the kind of skills that I'm trying to teach throughout this book. This book doesn't give you the black and white answer. It is not doing this. The book is ready for you to read. And if you're reading it the right way, the way it was designed and written for, you've got to making a pause on the questions that they're being asked in order for you to start assessing yourself. And so if you really go through that exercise through the book and not just ignoring and dismissing the question, you might miss out on the whole experience this book is written for. So take the time to really read the stories that I've added into it, because you want to make sure that I'm not just there saying I have the secret recipe for success. I wanted to make sure that instead of giving stories of others like athletes or the greatest entrepreneur of our time, I think we've heard all those stories already. I just wanted to make it relatable. In order to do that, you just kind of following my journey. So each of those chapters, they're just being intertwined with stories of my career and my life in order to illustrate my point. So I'm going to share very vulnerable moments. I'm going to share the pressure of the kitchen. I'm going to share what it means to fail big
Mhm.
and the consequences that came with it. And Yeah, and the relentless growth really stands for the fact that we never stop growing. The identity of today does not have to be the identity of tomorrow. And the process, you've got to fall in love with the process of growing and the
Mhm.
process of becoming. I guess you just kind of you're just an unfinished progress.
The process of growing and the process of becoming. I love this. I think it's not even just perfect for educators, but also for students too, who are in that massive growth phase of their life and to see the different paths that life can take,
They were
right? And
definitely
it's
my
about the learning. Yeah.
first audience.
Mm,
The
cool.
book, it's funny. I've hired a book coach because I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know how to write it in English. I've never done any of this before, so I hired a book coach. And funny enough, when I announced to the world I was writing a book, people were just like, How are you at with your book?" I say, "I haven't even started." And then 3 months later, I say, "Where are you at with your book?" Still haven't started. For like 6 or 7 months, I worked on a book proposal, and it was very long, very difficult. Because I didn't know any better. I thought that I would start writing my book within 2 months and just starting to write the chapters like you would do, what you would assume one would assume that's the way to go. But my coach made me creating a book proposal with, like, the second exercise was write down 10 titles of your book. And just said, I don't even know what the book is about. And they said, just write down 10 titles based on the ideas you want. And you just write down the 10 titles as part of the exercise. And then after that, you go into let's write down the annotated table of content and say, how the hell am I going to do that? So you just kind of you go into market data research in order to find out who are you writing the book. Questions such as, why do you think you're the right person to write this book? And you're just like, well, that's a very good question. I don't know why I'm the right person. And everyone likes to think they're writing the book that's never been written ever. And so it's a misconception again. You've got to go into the way my book coach Sabrina, she's the best. She told me, say, Franck, imagine your book is on a shelf with five other book, and what is your book is adding into the conversation? Whatever you have to say has been said. Now you are adding Chef Franck's point of view and new way of looking at life. So what is it that you're bringing into your competitive titles? What is it that you're bringing into the conversation that others are not? And so one of the exercises is selecting five competitive title and finding out what is it that they are offering that that you like about it, but at the same time, what is it that they're missing out that would definitely be in your book in order for you to add into conversation? So those exercises took me, I don't know, 6 or 7 months to do that. But once I got into the process of my book proposal being done, it was about 60 pages. You just kind of starting writing. Okay, I'm starting writing, but the flow comes so naturally because now you have this map, you have this guideline, you know who you're writing for. And sometime I found myself just going writing. I read the thing and I said, who the hell am I talking about? And so you're just finding out. I say, okay, you remember your first audience is the student of hospitality, the kids that are at school right now entering the world of hospitality. Then my secondary audience, they're trainers, they're teachers, they're human resources, they're middle management. I'm an employee for the last 5 years, and now I'm moving into the management world. What do I need to work on? And then also for the senior or directors or exec chef that has been in the industry for a few years, and they just plateaued. They're missing out the sparks that make them feel like I can contribute. Kind of the idea was to reignite the desire to become someone else and realize that once you've been in the industry for 20 years, goal for you is now is how do you bring your knowledge and expertise and authority into the younger generation and becoming more of this wisdom that's coming from above. You have the role to play, and I would say you have a more responsibility once you've gained that knowledge to
To
pass it on.
share.
That's that you
Yeah.
you should. And people that I mean, I've known chefs that keep their recipe close to their chest, and you say, "What the hell are you doing, dude?" Like once you die, those recipe are gonna be gone. And so I say, "What's the
Right.
point?" I say, "What's the point?" The goal is if you have the knowledge, you must pass it on. You must pass it on. That's for me. It's I cannot understand someone that would want to. Oh, this is the secret recipe. I don't pass it on. I said, Why? Someone passed it on to you, so
Uh-huh.
why are you keeping it? There's no point." So that usually, I'm probably have some PTSD that makes me mad.
I love it. It sounds like your pursuit of relentless growth was amplified even just writing this book. Like it took your personal growth to a whole new level too. Is that
Oh,
fair to say?
completely. Oh, it
Yeah.
is super fair to
Next
say.
level. Yeah.
You know, when I say it was therapeutic, growing up, and I don't want to fall into therapy here, but I'm someone that grew up in a different culture within a family core that does not necessarily share feelings and don't necessarily speak about our problems and stuff like that. So that's the environment I come in. And then you throw this kid into the chef world when you're being told to shut the f up at the whole time, and then when it's hard, you say go in the walk-in, go cry for 5 minutes, and come back to your station. So those kind of thing. I grew up in an environment that you just don't open it. And so going into this book, becoming a father, getting married, all of those things, man, I've been challenged so many ways in the past 6, 7 years of my life. And so when I decided to write this book, it's because I felt ready to write something. This book has been in my head in a way with a lot of foggy and fuzzy ideas for many, many years. But now I actually had the vocabulary to articulate and not afraid of feeling my feelings. So I just yeah, I was comfortable to be uncomfortable.
This is so interesting, and it'll resonate with so many people out there who have something in their heart that they wanna share, but they don't really know much about the process of writing a
Yeah,
book.
this book
Yeah,
definitely is going to help into,
this is
like I
so
said,
cool.
navigating navigating the fact that it is part of the process. If
Yes.
you're, there's lesson to extract from absolutely everything, and you just need to. It's another one of Steve Jobs that said it in one of his biggest speech in Stanford University. He said that you've got to learn to connect the dot backwards.
Yeah,
You've got to be able to look at the last year and just realize and say, man, if I didn't do this, I would not have done this, and I would not have done this, and I would not have done this. Therefore, I would not be sitting here doing this. So
right.
you kind of it just brings you a whole level of appreciation into your journey when you're looking backwards, because sometimes you just go so much in emotion.
In the moment. Yeah.
I'm a huge problem with that. I just sometimes don't necessarily appreciate. It's like I reach the top of the mountain. I celebrate for about 2.5 seconds, and then I'm seeing at the next mountain, the biggest, and then I'm starting climbing. So I'm someone that definitely could still learn to show a little bit of appreciation. So looking backwards makes me appreciate the journey and kind of still falling in love with the process all over again.
I love this. Thank you so much for sharing. So, as we start to wind down the conversation, what's one piece of advice that you have for new chefs coming into the field?
I would say the new chefs. One piece of advice, I guess, that would be applicable into today's world as we're entering 2026 is don't necessarily believe all the stories of success on social media. Everyone has their own story, and having patience to go through the process is probably the tip I would give. It's your ambition doesn't have to be the opposite of patience. The ambition is going to show you the way. The patience is going to fuel the climb. So it's really something that you have to find the right balance between patience and ambition.
I love that. Chef Franck, thank you so much for taking the time.
You're
I
very
heard your
welcome.
little one in the background, so the timing was
Yes.
perfect. Yes. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks you, Salli.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Educator Experience. We hope you're walking away feeling connected, inspired, and just a little bit more supported on your journey. Ready to go a little bit deeper? Join the Educator Experiences community and check out our courses and workshops specifically designed to support new educators as they navigate the ups, downs, and everything in between. You'll find it all at educatorexperiences.com. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with a fellow educator and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Together, we're building a vibrant community rooted in support and connection. See y'all next Monday.